Now, they may well have marched through your town or city centre. Maybe you've seen their banners near football grounds, or perhaps you've heard about them on the news. They're against what they call the Islamicization of their country. They say they're not racist, and they claim they are certainly not the BNP. After starting life in Luton last year, the English Defence League has been popping up in places like Bolton, Birmingham, Dudley and Leicester. They say they're fighting a war against Islamic extremism. And the EDL's next target is any council which removes the Christ from Christmas this year. The Prime Minister has called them terrible people. But what do you think? Email vine@bbc.co.uk or give us a ring on 0500 288 291. The leader and founder of the English Defence League, Tommy Robinson, joins me in the studio now. And in Westminster in a moment, we'll be talking to the Labour MP for Luton South, Gavin Shuker. Tommy, what is your organisation? Are you a protest group? Are you going to become a political party?
No, we are. We're a protest group, a pressure group to pressurise politicians into realising there's more than one community in many of our towns and cities. Stop pandering to the minority and start appeasing the majority, really.
And how many members do you think you've got?
Members, it's hard to gauge. We're an open membership. We've got 40 to 50,000 across the internet, but then, say, like out of Luton, our support in towns and cities is the average person supports us. We know that. There was a government poll in the newspaper yesterday that said, in a national newspaper, that 99% of their readers support the English Defence League. Whenever we come to towns and cities, the streets are lined with people applauding and clapping. So the media and the politicians say no one wants us here, no one likes us, but the perception from the public is the complete opposite, really.
And why is it that so many of your protests seem to end with violence?
Well, we're protesting against militant Islam. It's not Mickey Mouse we're going up against. This is a serious, organised fraction of their religion who are militant, who will die in the name of their religion. And every time we protest, we have people coming out to oppose us, attack us, disrupt us at every demonstration. If we didn't have that, then we would have peaceful protests. And a lot of our supporters, like myself, I'm of the mindset we will not back down to this. We've been intimidated. My house has been attacked. I've been attacked. We're not going away. We're not submitting. All I'm doing and all we're doing is telling you how it is.
You say that you're targeting militant Islam. What do you mean? What is it about militant Islam that you don't like?
Militant Islam and Islamism, where groups are actively working to convert this country into an Islamic state, convert our areas, force-feeding us halal food, all these different sorts of things that are going on up and down the country that we're seeing appeasement from councils.
But aren't people allowed to practice their religion? Aren't people allowed to do what they want to do? I mean, when you say force-feeding us halal meat, nobody's force-feeding you meat, are they?
Every single school in Harrow Council, under the Harrow Council, from January is halal only in the schools. You've got KFC going halal only. You've got Wembley Stadium, without even telling any of us, halal only food. Now, halal is where an animal had its throat slit, hung upside down, took 15 minutes to die with no pain relief, and then it's had an Islamic ritual put over it and a prayer. Someone stood over it and shouted Allah Akbar. Now, if my kids are eating their school dinners, I don't want them eating that food. I have a principle. I'd rather the animal was killed in the most humane way. It hasn't been tortured and it hasn't had an Islamic prayer put over it, because I'm pretty sure that Muslims who don't even want to eat normal chicken, let alone chicken that's had a Christian or Sikh or Jewish prayer put over it.
What is it that you hate so much about the Islamic religion?
It's not about it's sections of the Islamic religion. I feel that we're having them forced upon us. We're having them shoved down our throat. We're seeing it in Luton. Every single school, part of national curriculum, have to visit the mosque. We're not seeing.
Well, what's wrong with building up understanding of different religions?
Because Islamic children are not visiting the Catholic Church or the Christian churches. It's gone so far the other way that we're finding ourselves having to integrate with them. And to be honest, some of the teachings that go on in some of these mosques, we've got the Quillam Foundation that have done investigations into mosques. We've seen undercover reports from the Beacon of Moderation Mosque in the East London Mosque, which is openly promoting Sharia law. I don't want my children visiting them mosques.
What's wrong with Sharia law in certain aspects of it that even the Archbishop of Canterbury said were worthwhile investigating?
Well, in 2003, the European Court of Human Rights done an investigation. This is a law in 2003 from a European court. They investigated fully every single aspect of Sharia law, and they found that it was incompatible with Western democracy because of their views on homosexuals, their views on women, and their views on infidels being me and you. Now, every single aspect, women have fought for decades in this country for equal rights, and we're going and letting them disappear so they can stand in a court where they're treated more like a second-rate citizen rather than equally. That's what Sharia law court is doing. We've got 100 of them in this country already. The spread of Sharia is It's growing throughout Europe, yet we have a law passed in 2003 against it. Yet it's being brushed under the carpet. Politicians are allowing it, and we don't want Sharia law courts. We have British law in this country.
Is this a cover for racism, effectively? Is what you're doing, say, using Muslim as a code word for people the colour of whose skin you don't like?
You say that we get called Islamophobic. I feel that there's more of a Christian phobic going on around this country. Christian phobia rather than Islamophobia.
But do you think that some racists are being attracted to your organisation?
I believe that since we started, we're a nationalistic organisation. Anyone who, obviously people try to attach themselves to us at the start. We're only 16, 17 months old. You can't expect a purity from an organisation that is that old.
So you've got some racists in your ranks?
We've done not in our ranks. We've done everything. We're a street protest movement. Anyone can turn up on the street. We can't legitimise to whoever turns up on the street, but we do everything we can to combat racism and fascism. We formed to combat an a fascist Islamic ideology that's masquerading as a religion.
Now, you're a former member of the BNP. Is this just another cover for the British National Party?
It's not. My name was on the leak list in 2004 as a British National Party member. I was 20 years old, and it wasn't on the list for 2005, 2006, 2007 because I didn't renew my membership. Now, I was worried about Islamic extremism and the state of my hometown Luton and what future it holds for my children. So the only party and the only politicians that were talking about this was the British National Party. I looked into them to see who they were. I found out they're not for me. They actually set up a meeting in Luton. We went along and they said he can't come in, he can't come in. They pointed to two of my friends who are black. So we said, why can't they come in? They told us black people can't join the British National Party. At which point we told them, you're not having a meeting in that pub because this is a pub in our estate, this is our town. At which point they haven't stood in Luton since that because our council and governments can't beat the British National Party, but they're being allowed to prosper or get support because people are fed up of Islamic fascism.
But aren't you really in danger of stirring up more hatred between different communities by the way that you talk about this? Surely a better way of dealing with it would be debate, discussion and understanding between the different communities, not polarising the argument in the way that you do.
It is, but with no one who wants to sit round tables and debate with us. Politicians don't. As you've just said, what David Cameron said, most of them, you'll probably have as you've said, you've got a local Luton politician on the radio next. He got in power in Luton for Labour because he got the block Muslim vote. So he's not going to go against the grain. We're standing up and we're talking for our communities.
But you're creating a polarised situation. You're saying, you know, there is one group over here, the English Defence League, who don't like Muslims. There's another group over there who are Muslims who are threatening to English people.
We don't like
You're
Muslims.
creating a situation where there's more likely to be hatred, more likely to be violence than there is to be peace and understanding, aren't you?
It's not that we don't like Muslims at all. Our problem was a fraction of Islam. I know there are some great Muslims out there. I know great Muslims myself who I'm friends with. The problem is not with individuals, it's with a wider aspect. And we're here because the division is already there. People say you're coming to our town to divide it. No, your town's already divided. All of our towns and cities with Islamic communities are as divided as they can be because a lot of these young Muslims are being taught non-integration with Christians and Jews from the age of 4 or 5, and we're seeing that.
OK, well, I want to bring in a couple of callers now. Paul Miller's on the line to us from Leicester. Do you want to just put your headphones on, if there's a pair of headphones there, so that you can hear what Paul has to say? Paul, what's been your experience of the English Defence League?
Hi, hello there. Well, the actual premise, the core premise of the message from the EDL, I'm not against. I live in Leicester. I've seen this sort of extreme Muslim minority expand in Leicester, and there's certain areas within Leicester that I feel, unsafe driving through as a white man. However, so the actual core premise, I'm not necessarily against. I think any extreme form of religion is counterproductive, and it's going to cause aggression on both sides. So it's not like I'm necessarily one of these people that just sort of knee-jerk reacts against the message of the EDL. But my son, who's mixed race, went along to the EDL rally in Leicester recently. They weren't allowed to march. It was they were kind of kept behind a fence by the police. Consequently, there was sort of anti-fascist counter-demonstration going on at the same time. So there's a lot of aggression there. But my son's mixed race, and he was within the EDL side, and he was attacked by Fred Perry wearing skinhead white youth within the EDL camp. Now,
you think he was attacked because he was mixed race?
Well, there's no other reason. He wasn't saying anything untoward. He wasn't sort of demonstrating against. He wasn't, he was just standing there with a group of his friends who were white, and he was sort of launched upon. And luckily, one of his friends stepped in and helped him out. So my problem is the core message is, I think a lot of ordinary citizens have got a problem with extreme Islam, extreme Muslim movements. So, because it is, like you say, it's anti-sexual, it's anti-women, and it's anti-Christian, and this country still...
But you're saying that the EDL is essentially a racist organisation, Paul, is that what you're saying?
I think what's happened is it's aligned itself, or certain groups aligned itself with it, which it doesn't seem to be discouraging. So when I was in Leicester that day, and I saw a lot of the majority of people on that march, they were skinheads.
Okay.
They were white skinheads, tattooed, football hooligan types.
All right.
And as long as they've got that mixing with them, their real message, if it's genuine, is going to be lost.
Okay, let me put that to Tommy. Tommy, is it true that your organisation is being hijacked by racists?
No, it's not. When we first started out in cities like Birmingham originally, I will admit, neo-Nazis, Blood and Honour, these organisations try to align themselves and attach themselves to us. They're not anymore. If you come on the street, I find that incredibly hard to believe, because I was in Leicester that day. Some of our leaders are Sikh, some of our main members are black. I find that impossible to believe, in fact, that a black man was attacked in our demonstration. You've just seen, we have gay pride flags, we march with blacks, whites, all different colours. I've never ever heard of any story like that in the last 17 months of our demonstrations.
Okay, let me bring in another caller. Dr. Matthew Feldman is on the line now. What point did you want to make, Matthew?
Well, I suppose my response to Mr. Yaxley Lenin is that that's quite a surprise, given that neo-Nazis have already been put on trial for actions that relate to terrorism and have quite happily turned up to EDL demonstrations. We also know that a number of Mr. Yaxley Lenin's ex-colleagues from the British National Party have also had very senior roles in the English Defence League. So I suppose really the major question is in fact, are we hearing the truth from Mr. Yaxley Lenin about this not being a racist organization?
What sort of racist organisation holds demonstrations outside an Israeli embassy with a rabbi coming over from America with our gay division? Well, everyone keeps saying, are you really lying? Well, no, we're not lying. We've carried from day one Black and White Unite. We've burnt the SWAS flag. Most of my death threats come from neo-Nazis. You saw in the Times newspaper 2 days ago an article saying the English Defence League fought running battles with neo-Nazi groups, because that's what we've now come to resort to. If any neo-Nazis were at our demonstrations, they're getting it.
Isn't the trouble that you can't, Tommy, you can't control who turns up to your demonstrations, and if people want to hijack those for their own racist purposes, they can do that.
They tried to at the first, but what I'm saying now is in the last 6 or 7 demonstrations, our organisation started off made up mainly of lads. Now we've got so many women on board, so many different people from different backgrounds and religions, and we are going the right way. And I personally know the regional organisers and the leaders of every single division now in the country. Obviously, it snowballed. It was the biggest phenomenon that's hit the country in years, and there's a reason for that, because people in towns and cities all feel the same. There's a big problem in our country with militant Islam. There's a big problem with our culture being eroded, our way of life being eroded, and no one's sticking up for us, no one's talking for us. And if politicians aren't going to stick up or talk for us, we'll stick up and stand up for ourselves.
Okay, I'm going to take a break for some music now.